The people who effortlessly transform their lives know something that the rest of us are missing. It's not what you think, and it's definitely not what they teach in personal development courses. What if I told you that the secret to extraordinary transformation has nothing to do with massive changes, dramatic overhauls, or superhuman willpower? Stay with me because this changes everything you've been taught about growth, success, and what it really takes to become the person you want to be. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share a principle so simple that most people dismiss it, yet so powerful that it's responsible for every great achievement in human history. You've probably heard about the 1% principle before, but I guarantee you haven't heard it like this. Because what I'm about to reveal isn't just about getting better, it's about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts the life they want without forcing, struggling, or burning out. The truth is, you don't need to change your entire life today. You don't need to become a different person overnight. You just need to understand how tiny shifts compound into extraordinary transformations, and why the people who seem to have it all figured out are actually just doing one thing differently than everyone else. Have you noticed how the harder you try to transform yourself, the more you seem to stay exactly the same? There's something happening beneath the surface that most of us miss because we're focused on the dramatic changes we think we need to make. Picture this. It's New Year's Day and you're making resolutions. You're going to exercise every day, eat perfectly, meditate for an hour, read a book a week, learn a new language, and completely reorganize your life. You feel motivated, inspired, ready to become the person you've always wanted to be. For the first few days, maybe even weeks, you're doing great. You're checking all the boxes, following your new routine, feeling proud of your progress. But then life happens. You miss a workout because of a work deadline, you grab fast food because you're running late, you skip meditation because you're exhausted. Suddenly, the perfect routine starts to crumble. One missed day becomes 2, then 3, then you're back to your old patterns, feeling frustrated, defeated, and convinced that you just don't have what it takes. Sound familiar? I understand why this happens, and it's not because you lack willpower or motivation. We've been conditioned to believe that transformation requires dramatic action, that meaningful change means completely overhauling our lives, that we need to become different people overnight. But here's what's really happening when you try to change everything at once. Your brain literally rebels against you. It's designed to keep you safe, and from its perspective, dramatic change equals danger. So it creates resistance, procrastination, and self-sabotage to pull you back to familiar territory. Think about a rubber band being stretched. The harder you pull it, the more force it exerts to snap back to its original shape. Your habits, your identity, your comfort zone, they all work like that rubber band. The more dramatically you try to change, the stronger the resistance becomes.
Yet we've created a culture that worships dramatic transformation. We celebrate the before and after photos, the overnight success stories, the radical life makeovers. We've forgotten that behind every seemingly sudden breakthrough is usually years of small, consistent actions that nobody noticed. The real tragedy isn't that dramatic changes are hard to maintain. The real tragedy is that we've overlooked the most powerful force for transformation available to us, the compound effect of tiny, consistent improvements that feel almost insignificant in the moment but create extraordinary results over time. Most people fail at change not because they aim too high, but because they don't understand that small changes, sustained over time, are actually more powerful than big changes that can't be maintained. They don't realize that 1% better every day isn't just a nice idea, it's the secret to becoming unstoppable. Let me tell you about David, a 35-year-old accountant who felt completely stuck in his life. He was overweight, stressed, unfulfilled at work, and struggling in his relationships. He tried everything: extreme diets, intense workout programs, complete career changes, relationship ultimatums. Nothing stuck. David was the king of dramatic resolutions. Every few months, he'd decide to transform his entire life. He'd join expensive gyms, buy courses he never finished, and make grand declarations to friends and family about how things were going to be different this time. But David had a neighbor named Sarah, a retired teacher who seemed to embody everything he wanted to be. She was fit, peaceful, successful in her second career as a writer, and had a marriage that made everyone around her believe in love again. David assumes Sarah had always had it easy, that she was naturally disciplined or maybe just lucky. One day, David asked Sarah directly, "How do you make it look so effortless? What's your secret?" Sarah smiled and said, "Come take a walk with me tomorrow morning at 6 a.m." David expected to hear about some revolutionary morning routine or life-changing philosophy. Instead, Sarah did something that seemed almost insulting in its simplicity. She walked around the block, once. It took exactly 7 minutes. "That's it?" David asked. "That's it," Sarah replied. "Same time tomorrow?" David agreed, mostly out of politeness. The next morning, they walked around the block again. 7 minutes. Nothing dramatic, nothing that felt like it would change anything. But Sarah had one rule: no matter what, they would walk around the block. Raining? Around the block. Tired? Around the block. Busy day ahead? Around the block. After 2 weeks, David noticed something interesting. The walk felt automatic now, and sometimes he found himself wanting to go a little further. Sarah encouraged this but never pushed. "Listen to what feels right today," she would say. By month 2, their 7-minute walk had naturally expanded to 15 minutes. David wasn't forcing it, it just felt good to move a little more. By month 3, he was walking for 25 minutes and had started paying attention to what he ate, not because he was on a diet, but because he was starting to feel like someone who took care of himself. The transformation was so gradual that David almost didn't notice it happening. His energy increased, his stress decreased, his confidence grew, but more importantly, his identity began to shift. He started seeing himself as someone who showed up consistently, someone who could be trusted to do what he said he would do. 6 months later, David looked in the mirror and barely recognized himself. Not just physically, though he'd lost 30 pounds without trying. His entire presence was different. He carried himself like someone who had his life together, because for the first time, he actually did. When people asked David what he'd done, he'd tell them about the 7-minute walk, and they'd look disappointed. They wanted to hear about the secret diet, the special workout, the life-changing revelation. They couldn't understand that the 7-minute walk wasn't just exercise, it was identity transformation disguised as a simple habit. Sarah had understood something profound about human psychology and the nature of lasting change. She knew that small actions, repeated consistently, don't just change what you do, they change who you are. And when you change who you are, everything else changes automatically. This story reveals the counterintuitive truth about transformation. The smaller the change, the more powerful it can be, because small changes bypass the resistance that kills bigger ones. Here's what transforms everything about personal growth. You don't need to become 100% better today. You need to become 1% better in a way that you can sustain forever. The magic isn't in the percentage, it's in the consistency that becomes part of who you are. Most people think 1% improvement is insignificant because they're looking at the immediate results. But here's what they're missing. 1% better every day means you're 37 times better after 1 year. That's not just improvement, that's complete transformation. Think about it mathematically. If you improve by 1% each day for 365 days, you end up 37.78 times better than when you started. But if you get 1% worse each day for a year, you decline nearly down to 0. The difference between those two paths is the difference between an extraordinary life and a life of quiet desperation. But the real power of 1% improvement isn't mathematical, it's psychological. When you make tiny improvements consistently, you're not just changing your results, you're changing your identity. You're becoming the kind of person who follows through, who shows up, who keeps their promises to themselves. While most people focus on outcomes they want to achieve, true transformation comes from focusing on the identity you want to embody. The question isn't, what do I want to have, but who do I want to become? Here's the profound shift. When you focus on becoming 1% better every day, you're not trying to change your life, you're trying to change yourself. And when you change yourself, your life changes automatically.
Consider how compound interest works in finance. Small amounts of money invested consistently over time become vast fortunes not because of the size of the individual investments, but because of the relentless power of compounding. Your daily 1% improvements work exactly the same way. The reason most people never experience this transformation is that they quit before the compound effect kicks in. They make small improvements for a few weeks or months, don't see dramatic results, and assume it's not working. But compound growth is almost invisible at first, then it becomes unstoppable.
This is why people who seem to have overnight success have usually been making 1% improvements for years before anyone noticed. The success looks sudden from the outside, but from the inside, it's the inevitable result of consistent compound growth. The most successful people understand this principle intuitively. They know that extraordinary results come from ordinary actions performed consistently over extraordinary periods of time. They're not looking for the magic bullet, they're committed to the magic of consistency. The first foundation is recognizing that every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. When you make your bed, you're voting for someone who has their life together. When you go for a walk, you're voting for someone who prioritizes their health. When you read for 10 minutes, you're voting for someone who values learning. Most people focus on what they want to achieve, but lasting change comes from focusing on who they want to become. Instead of saying, "I want to lose weight," say, "I want to become someone who takes care of their body." Instead of, "I want to be successful," say, "I want to become someone who consistently takes action toward their goals." Start by identifying the identity you want to embody. What kind of person naturally has the life you want? What do they do daily? How do they think? How do they show up in the world? This becomes your North Star for every 1% improvement. Practice identity-based thinking in small moments throughout your day. Before making any decision, ask yourself, what would someone with my desired identity do in this situation? Then do that thing, even if it feels small or insignificant. Create identity reinforcement through small daily actions. If you want to become a writer, write one sentence every day. If you want to become fit, do one push-up every day. If you want to become organized, make your bed every day. These tiny actions accumulate into powerful identity shifts. The second foundation is creating systems that are so easy you can't fail. The goal isn't to create perfect systems, it's to create systems that you can maintain even on your worst days. This means starting ridiculously small. Want to read more? Read 1 page a day. Want to exercise? Do 1 minute of movement daily. Want to meditate? Take 3 conscious breaths each morning. The key is making it so easy that skipping it feels harder than doing it. Focus on consistency over intensity. It's better to do something small every day for a year than something big for a week. Your brain doesn't distinguish between the size of the action, it only notices the pattern of repetition. Design your environment to support your 1% improvements. If you want to drink more water, put a glass by your bed. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes. If you want to read, put a book on your pillow. Make the right choice the easiest choice. Build what James calls habit stacking. Attach your new 1% improvement to an existing habit. After I pour my morning coffee, I will write 1 sentence. After I sit down for dinner, I will share 1 thing I'm grateful for. After I brush my teeth, I will do 10 squats. The third foundation is understanding that meaningful results take time to appear, but when they do, they appear suddenly and dramatically. This is the plateau of latent potential. Nothing seems to be happening for a long time, then everything changes at once. Develop what I call compound patience, the ability to trust the process even when you can't see immediate results. Remember that bamboo spends its first 4 years building an extensive root system underground. Then, in its 5th year, it grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. Learn to find satisfaction in the process rather than just the outcomes. Celebrate showing up, celebrating consistency, celebrating the fact that you're becoming someone who follows through on their commitments to themselves.
Track your inputs, not just your outputs. Instead of only measuring results, measure consistency. How many days in a row did you take action? How many weeks have you maintained your 1% improvement? This builds momentum and confidence. Understand that setbacks are part of the process, not evidence that the process isn't working. One bad day doesn't undo weeks of progress, just like one good day doesn't create lasting change. What matters is the overall trajectory, not the daily fluctuations. The fourth foundation is allowing your 1% improvements to evolve naturally rather than forcing them to grow. When small actions become automatic, they naturally want to expand. Trust this process instead of pushing it. Pay attention to what feels good and wants to grow. If your daily 5-minute walk naturally wants to become 10 minutes, let it. If your one-page reading habit wants to become a chapter, allow it. But never force expansion. Let it emerge organically. Regularly review and adjust your 1% improvements based on what you're learning about yourself. Maybe you discovered you're more creative in the evening than the morning. Maybe you found that meditation works better for you than journaling. Stay flexible and responsive to what actually works. Create space for multiple 1% improvements in different areas of your life, but introduce them slowly. Once one habit is automatic, usually after 2 to 3 months, you can begin another. This prevents overwhelm while building a comprehensive life transformation. Remember that the goal isn't just to improve, it's to become someone who naturally improves. You want to develop an identity as someone who's always growing, always learning, always becoming a better version of themselves. Once you've mastered the basic principles, you can begin applying the 1% better philosophy to every area of your life with increasing sophistication and impact. In your career, 1% better might mean learning one new thing related to your field every day. Read one article, watch one tutorial, practice one skill for 15 minutes. Over a year, this small investment compounds into expertise that sets you apart from your peers. Many people wait for their company to invest in their development or for the perfect moment to make a career change. But 1% better every day means taking responsibility for your own growth, regardless of external circumstances. Create a professional development system that's sustainable. 15 minutes of skill building every morning, one networking conversation per week, one new professional article read daily. These tiny investments compound into career transformation. Apply the 1% principle to your relationships by making small daily investments in connection. Send one thoughtful message to a friend. Give one genuine compliment to your partner. Have one meaningful conversation with a family member. Most relationships deteriorate not because of major conflicts, but because of accumulated small neglects. Similarly, extraordinary relationships are built through accumulated small attentions. One kind word, one moment of presence, one act of service. Repeated daily, these transform relationships completely. Practice emotional intelligence as a 1% improvement. Notice one emotion you're feeling each day. Express appreciation once daily. Listen without interrupting in one conversation. These micro skills compound into profound relationship transformation. For physical health, 1% better might be drinking one extra glass of water daily, taking the stairs instead of the elevator once per day, or doing one extra rep in your workout. These seem insignificant, but they compound into remarkable physical transformation. The key is making health improvements so small that they don't trigger resistance. One push-up, one vegetable with each meal, one 10-minute walk. Your body and mind adapt to these changes easily, making them sustainable long-term. Focus on building health momentum rather than achieving perfect health immediately. Each small healthy choice makes the next healthy choice easier, creating an upward spiral of vitality and energy. Mental health improvements follow the same compound principle. 1 minute of meditation daily, writing down one thing you're grateful for, or challenging one negative thought per day seem small, but they rewire your brain over time. Develop emotional resilience through 1% improvements. Practice deep breathing once when stressed, reframe one negative situation daily, or spend 5 minutes in nature each day. These micro practices build profound inner strength. Create systems for mental clarity. Clean your workspace for 2 minutes daily, plan tomorrow before bed for 5 minutes, or practice single tasking in one activity each day. Mental organization compounds into life organization. Financial transformation through 1% improvements might mean saving $1 more than yesterday, learning one financial concept per day, or automating one small investment weekly. The compound effect in finances is literal. Small amounts invested consistently become substantial wealth. Most people wait for more income to start building wealth, but 1% better means working with what you have now. Save the loose change, invest $5 weekly, read one paragraph about investing daily. Build financial awareness as a 1% improvement. Track one expense daily, review your financial goals once weekly, or learn about one investment option per month. Financial literacy compounds into financial freedom. Understanding the psychological mechanics behind why 1% improvements work is crucial for maintaining motivation when progress feels slow. Your brain is constantly evaluating whether you're the kind of person who follows through on commitments to yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, even in the smallest way, you're building self-trust. This self-trust becomes the foundation for bigger commitments and greater achievements. You start to see yourself as reliable, consistent, someone who makes things happen. The opposite is also true. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, even a small one, you're eroding self-trust. This is why it's better to commit to something tiny that you can definitely do than something big that you might not maintain.
Small, consistent wins trigger the same neurological reward system as big achievements, but they're easier to achieve and sustain. This creates a positive feedback loop where success breeds more success. Your brain releases dopamine not just when you achieve something, but when you anticipate achieving it. This means that having a clear, achievable 1% improvement to look forward to each day creates a natural motivation system. The key is making your improvements specific and measurable enough that you can clearly recognize when you've completed them. Be healthier doesn't trigger the dopamine system, but drink one extra glass of water does. Every action is evidence of your identity. When you consistently take small actions aligned with who you want to become, you're providing your brain with proof that you are indeed that type of person. This is why someone who exercises for 2 minutes daily for 6 months has a stronger athletic identity than someone who exercises for 2 hours once per week. Frequency of action shapes identity more than intensity of action. Your brain uses your recent actions to predict your future actions. When you have a long streak of small wins, your brain expects you to continue winning. This creates momentum that makes bigger achievements feel natural and inevitable. This principle, made famous by British cycling team's performance coach Dave Brailsford, involves finding tiny improvements in every area that affects performance. The British team applied this philosophy to win multiple Olympic gold medals and Tour de France victories. They improved by 1% in obvious areas like training and nutrition, but also in unexpected areas like the ergonomics of the bike seat, the type of massage oil used for recovery, and even the pillow each cyclist used for optimal sleep. You can apply this same principle to your life by looking for 1% improvements in every area that affects your desired outcome. Want to be more productive? Improve your sleep by 1%, your workspace organization by 1%, your focus techniques by 1%, and your energy management by 1%. Even with the best intentions, most people encounter predictable obstacles when trying to implement the 1% better philosophy. Understanding these obstacles and having strategies to overcome them is essential for long-term success. The too small to matter trap. The biggest obstacle is dismissing 1% improvements as insignificant. Your rational mind knows that small changes compound, but your emotional mind wants to see immediate, dramatic results. Combat this by tracking your improvements visually. Use a calendar to mark successful days, keep a journal of how you feel as you maintain your habits, or take photos to document gradual changes. Make the invisible progress visible.
Remember that the goal isn't just a specific improvement, it's becoming someone who consistently improves. Even if drinking one extra glass of water doesn't transform your health overnight, becoming someone who follows through on small commitments transforms everything. Many people get stuck trying to find the perfect 1% improvement or the perfect system. They research endlessly, plan meticulously, but never start because they're waiting for the ideal approach. The truth is that any 1% improvement is better than no improvement. Start with something, anything, and adjust as you go. You'll learn more about what works for you by doing than by planning.
Embrace good enough as a strategy. Your first attempt at a 1% improvement system doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be started. You can refine and optimize later. Life will interrupt your streak. You'll get sick, travel, face emergencies, or simply forget. The key is having a comeback strategy that doesn't require starting from zero. Develop what I call minimum effective dose versions of your improvements. If your normal habit is a 20-minute walk, your minimum version might be walking to the mailbox. If you usually read for 15 minutes, your minimum might be reading one paragraph. The goal is maintaining the neural pathway and identity reinforcement even when you can't do the full version. This prevents the all or nothing thinking that kills most improvement efforts. There will be times when your progress seems to stall or even reverse. This is normal and expected. Remember that growth isn't linear. It happens in waves, with plateaus between each wave. During plateau periods, focus on process rather than outcomes. Celebrate showing up, maintaining consistency, and strengthening your identity as someone who perseveres. The next wave of progress is building beneath the surface. Use plateau periods as opportunities to review and adjust your approach. Maybe you need to add a new 1% improvement, modify your current one, or simply trust the process for a little longer. Now it's time to design your own 1% better system tailored to your specific goals, personality, and life circumstances. This isn't about copying someone else's approach. It's about creating something uniquely effective for you. Start by getting crystal clear on who you want to become. Write down the identity you want to embody in 1 year. What kind of person naturally has the life you want? How do they think, act, and show up in the world? Be specific. Instead of successful person, write someone who consistently takes action toward meaningful goals. Instead of healthy person, write someone who nourishes their body and mind daily. This identity becomes your filter for choosing which 1% improvements to focus on. Every small action should be a vote for this future version of yourself. Choose 1 to 3 areas where you want to make 1% improvements. More than 3 usually leads to overwhelm and inconsistency. Remember, you can always add more later once these become automatic. For each area, identify the smallest possible improvement that still feels meaningful. If your goal is better fitness, maybe it's 5 push-ups daily. If it's improved relationships, maybe it's 1 genuine compliment per day. Make sure each improvement is specific, measurable, and achievable even on your worst days. Vague improvements like be healthier don't create the clear wins your brain needs to build momentum. Create a simple system for tracking and maintaining your improvements. This might be a habit tracker app, a simple calendar, or just check marks on paper. The key is making it easy to see your progress and streak. Design your environment to support success. Remove barriers to your improvements and add cues that remind you to take action. If you want to drink more water, put a glass on your nightstand. If you want to read daily, put a book on your pillow. Plan for obstacles by creating if-then scenarios. If I'm traveling, then I'll do my exercises in my hotel room. If I'm sick, then I'll read just 1 page instead of my usual chapter. Start immediately with just 1 improvement. Don't wait for Monday, next month, or the perfect moment. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. For the first 2 weeks, focus only on consistency, not perfection. Your goal is to establish the neural pathway and build initial momentum. Worry about optimization later. After 2 weeks, assess what's working and what isn't.
Maybe you need to adjust the time of day, the specific action, or the tracking method. Small adjustments can make the difference between success and failure. Once your improvement becomes automatic, usually 2 to 3 months, you have two choices: naturally expand it or add a new improvement in a different area. Let natural expansion happen organically. If your daily 5-minute walk naturally wants to become 10 minutes, allow it. But never force expansion. Let it emerge from genuine desire rather than shoulds. When adding new improvements, introduce them slowly and ensure your existing ones remain stable. The compound effect works best when you maintain multiple small improvements across different life areas. Understanding where the 1% better philosophy leads over years and decades helps maintain motivation during the inevitable challenging periods. This isn't just about forming a few good habits, it's about fundamentally transforming how you approach life and growth. In your first year, you're primarily building the foundation of consistent action and identity change. You're proving to yourself that you can be trusted to follow through on commitments. You're developing what I call change confidence, the belief that you can indeed transform your life. By the end of year 1, your chosen improvements should feel automatic. You shouldn't have to think about doing them. They've become part of who you are. This is when the magic really begins, because automatic improvements free up mental energy for new growth. You'll notice that people start commenting on your changes, not just the visible results, but your entire energy and presence. You'll carry yourself like someone who has their life together because you actually do. In years 2 and 3, the compound effect becomes undeniable. Small improvements have accumulated into significant results. More importantly, you've developed systems thinking, the ability to see how small changes in one area affect everything else. You become someone who naturally looks for 1% improvements in every situation. Instead of hoping for dramatic breakthroughs, you trust the process of consistent growth. This makes you remarkably resilient and adaptable. Your confidence grows not from specific achievements, but from the identity of being someone who consistently improves. This confidence attracts opportunities, relationships, and experiences that accelerate your growth even further. By years 4 and 5, you've developed what I call compound mastery, the ability to improve multiple areas of your life simultaneously while maintaining balance and sustainability. You've probably influenced others to adopt similar approaches. People seek your advice not because you've achieved something extraordinary overnight, but because you consistently achieve extraordinary things through ordinary daily actions. Most importantly, you've internalized the philosophy so deeply that growth becomes effortless. You don't have to force improvement. It happens naturally because of who you've become. Over a decade or more, the 1% better philosophy doesn't just change your life, it changes your legacy. You become living proof that extraordinary transformation is possible through simple, consistent action. You've probably mentored others, created systems that outlast you, and contributed to causes bigger than yourself. But more than external achievements, you've developed an inner mastery that brings deep satisfaction and peace. You understand that the goal was never the achievements themselves, but the person you became in pursuing them. The 1% improvements were just the vehicle for becoming your highest self. The ultimate test of any personal development philosophy is how well it integrates into the messy reality of daily life. The 1% better approach excels here because it's designed to work with your life as it is, not as you wish it were. Start each day by connecting with your identity and reviewing your 1% improvements. This doesn't require a complex morning routine, just a moment of intention before you begin your day. Ask yourself, who am I becoming today, and what small action will move me 1% closer to that person? This primes your brain to look for improvement opportunities throughout the day. Build your 1% improvements into existing morning routines when possible. After you brush your teeth, do your exercises. After you drink your coffee, do your reading. This creates automatic triggers that don't require additional willpower. Look for micro opportunities to embody your desired identity. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Choose water instead of soda. Listen fully instead of waiting to speak. These moments might seem insignificant, but they accumulate into identity transformation. Practice the better choice bias. When faced with any decision, ask yourself which option the person you want to become would choose. Then, choose that option, especially in small decisions where the stakes are low. Use transition moments between meetings, tasks, or activities as opportunities for 1% improvements. 2 minutes of deep breathing, a quick gratitude reflection, or straightening your workspace. These micro improvements compound throughout the day. End each day by acknowledging your progress and planning tomorrow's improvements. This doesn't require extensive journaling, just a brief reflection on what went well and what you want to continue. Celebrate small wins before bed. Did you follow through on your commitments to yourself? Did you embody your desired identity, even in small ways? This positive reinforcement strengthens the neural pathways of success. Prepare for tomorrow's success by setting up your environment, reviewing your intentions, and visualizing yourself following through. This makes the next day's improvements feel inevitable rather than uncertain. Recognize that your 1% improvements may need to adapt to different seasons of life. During busy periods, focus on maintenance. During calmer periods, consider natural expansion or adding new improvements. Use life changes as opportunities to reassess and refine your approach. A new job, relationship, or living situation might require adjusting your systems, but the underlying philosophy remains constant. Remember that the goal isn't perfect consistency across all circumstances, but consistent return to your improvement practice. Life will interrupt your streaks, but your identity as someone who improves can remain stable through any circumstance. The 1% better philosophy isn't just another productivity hack or self-improvement technique. It's a fundamental reorientation toward growth that honors both your human limitations and your infinite potential. It acknowledges that you don't need to be perfect, just persistent. You don't need to change everything, just something. And you don't need to transform overnight, just begin today. When you embrace becoming 1% better every day, you're not just improving your life, you're discovering who you really are beneath all the stories about what you can't do, can't change, or can't become. You're proving to yourself, one small action at a time, that transformation isn't reserved for other people with different circumstances, genetics, or advantages. You have everything you need to begin. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. Right now, with whatever resources, time, and energy you have available. Because the person you want to become isn't waiting for the perfect moment to emerge. They're waiting for you to give them permission through the smallest possible step. Your extraordinary life isn't built through extraordinary moments. It's built through ordinary moments approached with extraordinary consistency. And that journey begins with a single question: how can I become 1% better today? The answer to that question, acted upon daily, is the secret to becoming unstoppable.